to talk to you today about self-deprecation. The reason I think this is important is because in my field, my goal is to help people develop a healthier relationship with food. And in order to do that, we really do have to dive down a little bit further and figure out what it is they're struggling with specifically. If someone has a poor relationship with food, usually they have poor relationships in general in their lives, but most importantly, the relationship with themselves. Self-deprecation basically becomes a habit. It begins, just like every other habit, in the beginning. We start our lives being exposed to certain things, certain attitudes, certain people, certain patterns that other people have. And those exposures add up. And like anything else, repeated exposure will build habits. There really are countless ways that we can pick these self-deprecating habits up. I know that I personally use these all the time, and I've heard other people use them. Oh, I'm such an idiot because I, enter behavior here. And it's something that seems really harmless, but when you hear these things come out of the mouth of someone else, particularly children, you really do get an opportunity to see just how damaging they can be. Now, of course, the media is also a place where we are exposed to this sort of thing from an early age, and not necessarily in the form of self-deprecation, but basically belittling other people. How this relates to the fitness industry, and the reason that I'm seeing so much of this lately, is that it's creating a self-deprecating cycle for clients who are trying to attain weight loss. They come to the fitness industry with a host of behaviors and patterns, just like any other client in any other industry. Now, we give them a plan and they follow the plan. But like anything else, we're human and we fall off of plan. It's not a perfect system, and it's not ever going to be. No matter how diligent you are going to fall off plan. Now, what I see happen, and this is the destructive part, is I see a client logging perfectly up until, say, Thursday. And then I don't see a log. And then the next day I see 1 or 2 meals. So what happens when someone has those breaks is, I know that they've had one off day. They tried to get back on track the next day and they succeeded for 1 or 2 meals, but then the pattern kicked back in. And the pattern is this: I've already fucked up anyway. What difference does this make? You've said it yourself. You've heard it 1,000 times. This is where the popular saying is, I'll start my diet on Monday. When one day has gone awry, it doesn't mean that the rest has to go. When you're teaching your child to ride a bicycle and you let go of their seat and they go off 4 or 5 spins of the pedal and they fall, you don't allow them to not get back on the bike because they just can't do it. They have to get back on. If they don't get back on in 3 days, get back on right away. And that's kind of the way that has to happen with this also. The point is that we have to expect as humans that we are going to fall off. And if your child fell off a bike and got up and said to you, I'm such an idiot, I'm so stupid, I'm never going to learn to ride this bike, what would you say to them? Now say that to yourself. You know very well you're not going to tell them, you're right, you are such an idiot and you are never going to get this. You're going to be riding a four-wheeler until you're 15. So don't say that to yourself when you fall off plan. Have a look at your logs, log it, be accountable. Go in and say, you know what, that really did suck. I probably did it because I felt stressed out, I felt tired, I had a fight with my husband or my wife, and I wasn't feeling very good about myself. But you know what, I don't have to continue. I can take control again. I know that it is harder to do than it is to say because I've been there. But the fact is, nothing's going to change without that level of consciousness. By allowing yourself to get trapped in that cycle where I'm such an idiot, I'm never going to get this, I give up, or I'll start again on Monday, isn't getting you any closer to your goal. What it is doing is repeating those negative messages in your head that have built your permission to self-deprecate in the first place. Now, the opposite of self-deprecate is self-worth. Self-worth, defined according to dictionary.com, is the sense of one's own value or worth as a person, self-esteem and self-respect. I tell my clients this all the time. Self-respect does not binge. Okay? Self-respect means that you value what's inside. You value yourself. You understand that sitting down to an entire tub of ice cream because you got into a fight with your spouse is not going to do anything good for your body or your mind, and it's going to repeat those messages in your head that you've been hearing your entire life. As an adult, you have the ability to make changes, really hard changes. I'm 37 years old. I had 37 years of programming in my head. You're this, you're that, and none of them were positive. Every single time I fell off, I had to make a conscious effort to write down what I was thinking and feeling. And then I had to be aware of what I needed to do to change it and actively change it. Every single time I would do this, 75% of the time I would succeed. But as you keep practicing, you get better and better and better. Put your kid back on that bike right after he falls down, and then send him back out the next day and send him back out the next day. And in a short period of time, you are going to have a child riding a two-wheeler, probably before he's 15, if you are consistent. So just the way that we're consistent with anything else in our lives, we have to be consistent with the love for ourselves. You may not have gotten that as a child, and you may have gotten that as a child, but the point is you're an adult now, and now you have to give it to you. No one else has that job. There are other people who might give it to you, but ultimately you have to give it to yourself. No one else. So do your best to move from self-deprecation to self-worth. It isn't too late. It's not ever going to be too late. You are absolutely worth it. Good luck.